welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 15th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's wet down here as usual. Wait, hold on. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think
DeAndre Hopkins just caught another ball on the 49ers defense. But,
okay.
With all that aside, I want to send a warm welcome and thank you to those first-line healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, first responders. Stay warm, stay healthy.
Yeah, stay warm and stay healthy, and don't get beat deep. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Big C, I love doing the Big C pause, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced at helping veterans and their loved ones get help. And in Big C today, President Joe Biden was talking about the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it's very important. I was having some thoughts earlier today. Never in the history of America have we had so many Americans unemployed in the middle of September in any year in American history.
Wow.
Never in the history of America have we had so many Americans die in 1 year, in 9 months, Charlton, in American history on American soil.
Wow.
And so as I think about that, Charlton, a lot of that encumbers our veterans of this country. And our veterans have been lumped into that, the unemployed, those who have died of COVID. And we lose a couple dozen a day to suicide in this country, Charlton. And our administration has not paid any attention to the American citizens nor the veterans that are the staple of this country. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number during our shows, Charlton, but we need this to become a concerted effort among Americans.
Yeah.
And as we look out there, and as American society is gone, is there a white spokesperson out there to say that white lives matter? Because Donald Trump doesn't care about white lives when he's having these rallies, telling everybody to show up without a mask.
I know.
He doesn't care about the veterans. And suicide has become a horrific thing, Charlton, amongst all Americans, along with our veterans.
Yeah.
And we have to find ways, along with the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, to prevent this horrific disease.
Big C, I love giving it out. And when President Joe Biden talked about it today, as long as people vote and vote for the best of our country, the best that we have to offer, I love giving it out, Big C. No one can ever tell me that Big C Sports is off the path. We're the vanguards, and to hear President Joe Biden, as long as people vote, give out the crisis hotline for military veterans. We've been doing that for about 2 years since you told me about it. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Also, I'm very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers to put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams do it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. We're going to be doing it all over this great country. I really love opportunities that we have with Big C Sports. If you're looking for opportunity, just call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. I want to touch on something before we get into the show, because to me, it's about being prescient. It's about knowing things before they happen. And some people call it intuition. People down south call it mother wit, whatever that means. But it's intuition. Some people call it the higher self or the pineal gland. We're two African American men, and we put together a program that came together in 2015 primarily because of racism, because of things that happened behind the scene. And no matter what people think of Big C Sports, to have President Biden, as long as people vote, and he wins the swing states and he'll get the popular vote too, to have him do something that I've never seen Donald Trump do in 4 years, Big C. He's never given out the Veterans Hotline. He said we support our troops, but he doesn't tell the ones who have a need for help how to get help, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's easy to say that you support our troops, Charlton, when you're the president, because that's your job.
Yeah.
But what you do in the light of day to help those troops is different. You think about the money that he took from the Pentagon to build a wall on the southern border. This money was for the troops, Charlton, and yet he raided the purse string of the troops.
Yeah.
You think about the money that he took away from the first responders in New York from 9/11, from their health fund. Took $4 million out of their health fund.
Yeah.
This is what Donald Trump has done. So when Donald Trump talk about he's the law and order commander-in-chief and he cares about the military, I think he was just out in California, Charlton. There were 2 police officers that were shot in Los Angeles.
When he came.
Did he make a trip down to Los Angeles
No.
to see them, Charlton?
Nope.
To do anything along that way? No, he didn't. But yet he stands with law and order. He didn't care about those police officers, Charlton. He went back home.
Back home, Big C, for the next 50 days. And I don't know the answer to this, but I really want to. I know people love sports, and the thing about sports, if you're dumb, you can only read the scores. Like Laura Ingham said, shut up and dribble. She can't keep black men out of her mouth, Big C. She's always had some comment about black men playing with balls, Big C. Think about this. The president said he's a law and order president. He's for the Second Amendment. I believe everyone should have a gun. But when I think 2 law enforcement officers were shot in Southern California, this law and order president flies out of California instead of going to L.A. to support the law enforcement officers. So when he says he's pro-gun, didn't the guy who shot the officers have a gun? So is President Trump pro people going around shooting people? When the white kid in Wisconsin shot 3 people, murdered 2, he said, well, then maybe he was afraid. He and his friend, William Barr, the Attorney General, they didn't call him a thug. They didn't say they need to arrest this guy. They just said they got to look into it more, but they didn't call him a thug. And they're pro-Second Amendment. Why not even comment on how bad it is for everyone to have a gun, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, as long as it's a white person wielding a gun in America, Charlton, it's okay with the administration and William Barr. I did make a mistake on what I said about him going back home. No, he didn't go back home. He went across the state lines to hold a rally over in Arizona.
Yeah.
Instead of going visiting those 2 injured officers in Los Angeles, he felt it was more important to go hold a rally over in Oklahoma, in Arizona, and expose people to COVID-19. But this is what we've said over and over. You know, when they talk about the Second Amendment rights, they're going to take your guns. He always preaches that. He's telling white people that they're going to take their guns and they won't be able to go up and down the street and shoot people, attempt to assassinate people in America. And I know they got the manhunt out for this horrific crime in Los Angeles, the shooting these 2 police officers.
Horrible.
Everyone says that they're searching for a man. To me, it looked like a woman
Very
running
small
away.
person, yeah.
Because when you look at a man running, he goes up and down with his arms.
Yeah.
When you look at a woman running, they cross the
Kind of
body
side to
with the
side.
arms to
Yeah.
protect their breasts from bouncing.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that picture, Charlton, my sixth sense makes me think that was a woman that pulled the trigger to attempt to assassinate those 2 police officers. But the president didn't even have the gall to go out and see how they were doing personally, or even talk to their family saying thanks for their service.
No, he didn't. But he did go to Wisconsin when a white kid shot 3 people, murdered 2. He showed up shortly in Wisconsin, and he said, he didn't call him a thug, said maybe he was afraid, and he stands for the Second Amendment. And everybody has a right to Second Amendment. It's part of the Constitution. But this is what I want to ask you. I know some guys want to do what Laura Ingraham says, shut up and dribble. So just shut up and dribble. But Big C Sports won't be that way. When you have these white militias walking around with machine guns and long barrel shotguns, I think they even stormed the state capitol of Michigan looking to shoot the governor, and they didn't come under the fire of POTUS. He didn't send in the military to protect the governor from Michigan, Big C, and he didn't do the same thing up in Oregon to protect the governor. He said he was protecting courthouses. Let me ask your opinion, and it's just an opinion, but when you're telling people, like the kid in Wisconsin, and people raised over $100,000 for his defense fund, and now the person, I believe it was a woman that shot those 2 officers in Los Angeles, do you think the president and William Barr give the wrong message when they say nothing about guys showing up with guns? They even gave the guy water in Wisconsin. The police gave him water. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, they sent out a message to their white followers what they're allowed to do in America, and they will stand behind them. When we look at America as a totality, no, they don't send the right message. But to his base, he sends the message that makes them support him, that he's standing behind them. But still to this day, I don't think that he's paid anybody's legal defense fund, Charlton,
no,
that has committed a crime, even though he stumped about that he would pay people's attorney and jail fees if they got in trouble supporting him. He hasn't done that, which is another lie that he's told his followers.
Yeah. Well, again, thoughts and prayers are with law enforcement, but I got to be honest about something. If we have as much concern when police officers shoot a man 7 times in the back and Trump says nothing about it and they lie about why they did it, and then we have a manhunt for someone who shoots police officers. Human life is human life. And that's why we need to get rid of this immunity clause so that the people can feel how a civilian feels when they're murdered the same way law enforcement feels. I am for law and order myself. I believe in the right to feel safe, but I don't believe in being preyed upon, which has happened to too many black Americans. And if the feeling and the enmity that people feel now with officers being shot, if they had that same type of hate and pushback when it happens to innocent people too, I think we would all understand, even bad police officers, they would stop doing as much crime if they knew they could be prosecuted. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it comes back down to the Constitution. When people are not declared in the Constitution to be 100% a person, you're only 3/5 of a human being declared in the Constitution. Is just like when they talk about stomping for gun rights.
Yeah.
I know it's totally wrong to go out and assault an officer in the street.
Of course.
To try to take an officer's life and when they're sitting there to serve and protect.
Right.
It was a heinous crime committed against law enforcement.
Yes.
And I hope that they do catch this individual, which I think is a woman just based on the way
so do I.
that they were running. If you look at running styles, that was a female running.
Yeah.
And so, I do hope that they find this person and bring him to justice. But we can't have vigilante justice in the street. You want to see this person go in front of a jury of their peers, in front of a court of law, and have their day in court, as well as you wish for law enforcement when they commit a crime against the public.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think if they look for a woman, they're going to find... I just believe it was a woman running, but very short in the way she was running. That's not how most men run, Big C. That's just my opinion. Maybe we're wrong, but I think if they open up their eyes and not look for a man, that looks like a female. Just my opinion, could be wrong. I want to get into something though, because I know we got some football and basketball to talk about, but I want to get on something because you're down there, and I might take issue with you on this, and maybe you won't take it or not. LSU football, the last year's 2019 national champions. Would you believe that later today it came out, or maybe it came out this morning, but LSU football coach, Ed Orgeron, the one that talks with a bad voice, he said today, Big C, that most of his team has contracted COVID-19. That's the last year's national football champions. He said this today. He said not all of our players, but most of our players have caught it. Ed Orgeron told reporters, I think that hopefully they won't catch it again, and hopefully they're not out for. Think about this. Hopefully they're not out for games. He says that before they're healthy. Before he says hopefully they're healthy, he says hopefully they're not out for games. And asked later for clarification, he said he did not know the exact percentage of players who had the COVID-19 virus. But that's part of the SEC that you and Paul Feinbaum are saying we can't wait to see games. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I was appalled with Coach Orgeron today, Charleston, in his statement, because he stated most of his players have contacted COVID-19. Now, he's got to be the dumbest guy in the world because he's not the smartest guy in the world to say he doesn't know how many.
Yeah.
You're the leader of a football program at a major university, and you're saying you don't know the health and welfare of the players on your team.
Yeah.
You're saying that you don't communicate with the medical experts, the trainers, the doctors. You don't get any specific numbers for them. All you do is sit up in your office and go out to the practice field. That makes you the dumbest coach in America to make those type of statements. But even more so, Charlton, he never halted practice since they've gone back to school. He said most of his players have contacted COVID-19, so he kept exposing the rest of the team to COVID-19.
Yeah.
And he's saying he hopes that they don't get sick again. He doesn't give a damn whether they get sick again. He just wants to get the money off of that new contract he got and play football. That's all that matters to him right now. You lose all respect when a coach comes out and makes those asinine statements like that.
Well, Big C, you've always said you like to know that someone's being honest with you. So when he sit down to recruit the next black kids, because that's who they have mostly in their kids on their team, 80% of them are African American kids. He sits down and tells the parents, if your kids catch a virus that has killed nearly 200,000 Americans, I won't find out how many of them have it, and I hope they can play. I hope they don't miss too many games. Think about this, Big C. Ed Orgeron, that good old boy, and I've been telling young black kids, Big C Sports been the only program advocating for athletes to get paid. It's already in Congress. But they let these white guys sweet talk them into playing without pay. That's just dumb. Now they say when you get a virus, they don't even know how many have it. Orgeron's comments, they come on the heels of Texas Tech self-reporting that 5 more cases of COVID-19 on Monday. That brings their team's total to 75 players since June that returned positive of COVID-19. That's Big 12 and SEC, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Ed Orgeron said he didn't know how many. He had 115 players on the team, so 15 of them did get COVID-19? And then we look at Texas Tech, that they've reported 75 positive cases. They just played a game on Saturday.
I know.
So since their game, they've had 5 more players test positive since the game that they played on Saturday. So how many players went into that game with COVID-19, Charlton? This is what you have to look at. And we talk about the disease spreading during games, that you can't keep players protected, socially distanced from each other. The Big 12 said that they would no longer report the numbers. I praise Texas Tech for coming out giving the numbers, because just last week we heard other universities said that they would not do it.
Yeah.
And Ed Orgeron is being a liar, saying he doesn't know how many players have contacted COVID-19. But you know how many numbers are on that paycheck when you get it.
Yeah. They know they know how much money. That's very true. I'm sure he can tell you down to the last penny how much money they got. But I'm asking people, and I know I've always liked Jim Harbaugh since he played college football at Michigan I believe he played for Bo Schembechler, played in the NFL, of course, and then he coached Stanford, coached the 49ers, then went back to Michigan. But think about those parents in the Big Ten that gathered around trying to find the Big Ten commissioner because they wanted to fist fight him. They wanted to have a fist fight with the commissioner of the Big Ten because they were trying to protect their children from catching COVID-19 and all the problems that come. Big C, what is Jim Harbaugh, who's been the biggest cheerleader, who's got it better than us? The guys who don't get COVID got it better than you. What's Jim Harbaugh's stance now that Coach Orgeron maybe was talking when they didn't want him to be talking, and said that more than half his team was positive? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you look at the Big Ten in total, it came out today that the president of the University of Nebraska, forgot that the microphone was on. That we hear a lot of white men forgetting that microphone was on and letting it slip out that there's supposed to be a vote today in the Big Ten whether to resume football in November. So, I mean, the pressure's on, and we know that Jim Harbaugh is very outspoken about wanting to play in the Big Ten. But, as you look at the science and these schools continuously saying that the numbers of COVID-19 positive rate is going up on campus, and, you got the CDC saying that the rates are going down, people need to understand when the CDC is telling you that the rates are going down. It's not the CDC, it's Donald Trump doing it.
Yeah.
He put in one of his campaign advisors from 2016, a guy named Michael Caputo, who is now the director of information for the CDC. He has no scientific background. He was a campaign advisor for Donald Trump, yet he made him the spokesperson for the CDC. So as we get these inaccurate numbers, as you elaborated on yesterday, when teachers in Florida wanted the accurate numbers from Ron DeSantis, the
teachers union,
and he refuses to give them out, that's part of the Donald Trump playbook to say that the disease is under control, the numbers are going down, and we're not going to tell you what the actual numbers are.
So what is Donald Trump going to say to the SEC and Ed Orgeron, the parents who have kids at LSU, last year's defending national champion? Last year's defending national champion, they had one of the most talented college football teams in the history of college football, at least in the top 10 of all time, Big C. And they have the best protocol. They have one of the biggest budgets for testing. So if they have all the things you need to keep people safe, and they let it out of the bag, because I know they didn't want Orgeron to say this. He let it out of the bag that more than half of the team was infected. If the best program in the country is infected, what does Donald Trump say to Ed Orgeron and the parents down there, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you got to understand this. Donald Trump doesn't care about anybody. Donald Trump doesn't care about white America. He doesn't care about rich America. He doesn't care about minority America. Because if he cared about white America, Charlton, he would not be having these rallies. And having these rallies with white America showing up. And he wouldn't be having these events at the White House with rich America showing up. And nobody's wearing a face mask.
No.
And you know how he feels about minorities in America. So Donald Trump has Donald Trump's agenda. Those people who are in that financial bracket that he's in and above. Because he's all about making money. And when people start to finally understand that this trip for Donald Trump has been all about making money and not making America great, but making his pocket great, then maybe they'll have a cognizant understanding of what he's doing to America. Because he don't give a damn about anybody other than himself.
Well, and we know that's right. Arkansas State home football game against Central Arkansas, would you believe it's been pushed back? They pushed it back. They put it on pause, Big C, and they put it on pause until October the 10th. Now think about this. Arkansas State made an announcement. Listen up, Jim Harbaugh, and all of you parents that can't wait to get your kids playing football, saying the team cannot assemble a full two-deep depth chart at a specific position due to player unavailability because so many players have caught COVID-19. They can't even fill the team, and now you have the Big Ten want to make a vote to start playing. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking the state of Arkansas is also in the SEC, Charlton, the Razorbacks. So if you got it at Arkansas State, I'm going to think that the University of Arkansas is not far behind in positive testing, and it's also that conference that will not tell the true numbers on positive cases. So, I mean, this is Russian roulette with young athletes. That's what you're looking at over and over. And this is the money hunt. I mean, this is what America has become to. When I was younger, Charlton, the OJs had a song called The Love of Money. What people will do for that almighty dollar. And that's what we're seeing with college sports.
And you know what really pains me? That, and I know people don't care, but I care. Most of these kids are black kids. Most of these kids, I'm going to maybe assume, and maybe they say, well, you make a blank out of yourself when you assume. I would assume that most of these Southern kids, they come from households where at least one parent is on high blood pressure medication or some other type of medication that keeps them alive, Big C. And a lot of the white people, they deal with cancer or some type of cholesterol problems. They have some type of pre-existing condition. And it's a shame because when they self-quarantined the school, like Michigan State closed the entire school, Michigan State. And last I checked, they're part of the Big Ten that wants to beat up the commissioner so they can play football. When they go back to their parents, they put their parents at risk just so the coach can make several $1 million, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not the coach that's doing the pushing and stumping, Charlton. It comes down to the administrators and chancellors of the university who make the decision whether the game is going to be played. Yes, the coach is going to get paid.
Yeah.
The thing about it, they didn't furlough any of the coaches, so they were holding out hope that they would be playing.
Wow. I mean, everybody do what you got to do. My goodness. I love reading about things that are real. Big C, America, please go out and vote. Text the word vote to 26797. That's text the word vote to 26797. Register. Tell all your friends that Big C in the NFL. And you guys in college, you're 18. You can vote. Just think about this. You have all your schoolmates, at least the ones playing sports, that makes tens of millions of dollars for the university, sometimes hundreds of millions, and you have people putting them out there to get sick. And this being backed by a president that says it doesn't exist. So if COVID doesn't exist, then why is LSU over half the program sick? Why is Michigan State closed the campus if COVID doesn't exist? Why are all these schools saying, wait a minute, these guys are testing positive. We can't keep hiding this. We got to get one more game in. You got to get out and vote. Your life really depends on it. And I'm saying vote for Joe Biden. I'm not one of those guys that say, well, vote for the guy that's lying to you and don't care if you or your parents die. You got to get out there and vote. Life is more than shutting up and dribbling, and that's my opinion. Big C, I want to get on some things that happen, and I know we're coming up on the Big C pause, but I want to run something by you. And again, I thank President Joe Biden for giving out that Veterans Crisis Hotline. I want to start out the NHL, the Dallas Stars. They're going to play in the NHL Finals after defeating the number one ranked team, Las Vegas Golden Knights, in the Western Conference Finals last night, 3-2 in overtime. We could really use some ice hockey, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about the Golden Knights, Charlton, they've been the most successful organization in the history of the NHL. When you think about their inception 3 years ago, going to the Stanley Cup Finals, making it to the Western Conference Final last year, once again this year, Charlton, an outstanding organization. But the Dallas Stars are going back to the NHL Finals for the first time in 20 years. With that miraculous overtime victory that they had last night. They were trailing 2-1, Charlton. And were able to come back and push the game to overtime and win it 3-2. They're going to face either the New York Islanders or the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are trying to decide the Eastern finalists, Charlton, in their series. They're playing tonight. But it's a 20-year run since the Dallas Stars have made it to the Stanley Cup Final.
I remember I was down in Florida, and the Dallas Stars were playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in a hockey game. This was back in '99. It was for the Super Bowl weekend when John Elway's last game when the Broncos beat the Atlanta Falcons down in Miami. And it's amazing that about 21 years later, the Stars are at it again, having a chance to do some great things. We're going to come up on the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause, and we're going to come back. I'm going to talk some more about what happened last night in Monday Night Football. We also have some basketball to hit on, too. We'll take the Big C pause, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back after the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. So many apps that I really appreciate. You can follow Big C Sports. And one more thing I want to get in. Again, thoughts and prayers are with the officers in Los Angeles that were gunned down by a small trained person that runs like a woman. Just my opinion, and I hope that somebody will turn them in. But I hope that the same people who have love for law enforcement have as much love for civilians who get shot by law enforcement also. Because we want to protect the good law enforcement officers. The same pain that those people feel is the same pain the family members feel of those people in Wisconsin that were murdered. And Donald Trump, all he said was, well, the guy was afraid. And then you had some white conservative TV hosts like Tucker Carlson and Hannity. They were bringing people on to Fox News, and they were talking about raising money to get a defense fund for a thug white kid who murdered two people after shooting 3 in Wisconsin. They helped raise money for a legal defense fund. They didn't call him a thug. They didn't call him a menace to society. They didn't say that white women should be afraid because he's moving into the suburbs and they're going to drive down property values. Big C, that to me, it turns my stomach. But they're responsible for that, in my opinion. I do want to bring up something that I think is going to sweep the nation. City of Louisville, Kentucky. People say Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group, right, Donald Trump? And I think there's another lady down there, that LaFleur, that owns the Atlanta Dream. A settlement with Breonna Taylor's estate, an excellent attorney, Ben Crump, $12 million, and is asking for comprehensive police reform. It's the largest settlement ever for an African-American woman in the United States, Big C, from wrongful death. Now, I know the attention Black Americans have brought to her attention has made it turn up the pressure to get it done. Black Lives Matter mantra help. Also, criminal charges, they will come next to prosecute the officers who murdered Breonna Taylor. There should be just as much enmity and hate for her death by law enforcement as it was for the officers in LA being shot. Okay? Same type of, in my opinion, the same type of interest should be given. I wanted to bring this up before I throw it to you. Vice President Kamala Harris, as long as people vote, she was the first public official to say her name. No more police immunity. The United States must be next. Congress is next. Big C, I told you, people can change. They just need the help of attorneys, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it was a somewhat somber day to see about the settlement and stuff, but it was only on the civil side. This is what you have to understand about the settlement.
It's the first step.
It was a civil change, and it was not a change of law, which is what's needed. The police officers have not been charged. And so the thing about my hesitation about the police officers in this situation, if you understand who the Attorney General is of Louisville, Kentucky, Donald Trump has nominated him as one of the potential Supreme Court justices. So he's not going to do anything to rattle the Republican Party or the president. So I don't see any charges on these police officers forthcoming because of that. Donald Trump put his nose into this scenario by nominating this guy as a candidate if an opening comes for the Supreme Court while he's still presidency. And he's not going to go against giving up that opportunity. So I don't see him charging these police officers. Also, when you think about the warrant that was given to these police officers, it was given under false pretenses. The officer lied to get the warrant.
Yeah.
So he murdered somebody on a lie.
Yeah.
And so we have to get laws changed. The civil suit is fine. That handles the family. But you need to handle the population with laws being changed.
Well, as I believe, Donald Trump will be kicked out of office November 3rd. And Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States. Vice President Kamala Harris is the first one to speak about what they just did in Louisville, Kentucky, Big C. And those police officers that murdered Breonna Taylor, they will be brought to justice. It's just a matter of time and people voting. And I believe
this Attorney General is in office. The vote won't affect him. He's been in office before Breonna Taylor got murdered and ever since her death has occurred. And yet he has refused to bring charges against these police officers, Charlton. He also spoke at the Republican National Convention when they were having it on television. So he's playing political arena, Charlton. He's not seeking justice.
Well, that's going to all change in about 50 days, and I believe Trump is an excellent attorney, deserves all the respect in the world. I want to bring up something that, to me, it's almost like Imus in the morning. Imus, who passed away, he was a bigot, and he was a white guy, and he was able to get on the air and spew some things about African-American women. He didn't know who Dr. Leakey and Gregor Mendel was. All life came from Africa, from the womb of a black woman. He didn't know that, Don Imus. But Monday night, it was a big night for what I think one of the best talents on TV, man or woman. Her name is Maria Taylor. She's beautiful. She does her job. She's excellent. She covers football. She covers basketball. She covers a myriad of things. And would you believe the Don Imus type are still out there? Someone tried to have a disparaging remark. His name is Dan McNeil. He's a radio host with the 670 The Score out of Chicago, of all cities. He tweeted and later deleted the criticism of Taylor's outfit, and he suggested some negative things about the adult film industry that Donald Trump dates women like Stormy Daniels from. But I gotta be honest too. As a beautiful black woman, this is the same woman, Maria Taylor, that I've only seen Nick Saban yell at when she was asking for an interview after a game. He yelled at her, and maybe he later apologized. I've never seen him yell at a white girl. I just haven't. In the many years I've been watching SEC, and now you have a guy at a radio station in Chicago trying to equate Maria Taylor to Stormy Daniels that Donald Trump paid $135,000 to. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the misogynistic actions, Charlton, of white radio hosts across this country has never changed. When you think about, here it is, he's indignifying a black woman, a woman of culture, Charlton. And we've seen how he's treated Donald Trump has treated black reporters in the White House.
Calls them nasty.
And so white men feel that they can say the same thing on radio and on television. And these actions can't be tolerated by their employer. Here it is, a woman who works herself up classically through the ranks to achieve the levels that she achieved.
She's good.
She hosts NBA Tonight on ESPN. She does college football. She's done the NFL now, Charlton. She's run the gamut. And to be belittled by some old white man saying that she should be giving out awards at an adult film festival instead of working on television, this is why white America is what it is today, Charlton, because those men are allowed to have a voice, and people listen, and it creates problems for others.
Yeah, and I think she's the most beautiful woman on television, and she's good at what she does, and I really think that a lot of women, if they watch her work, they could learn a lot because she's excellent. That's why she is where she is. But for those white guys that do, go home and look at your own daughter if you want to see somebody that looks like the porn industry. That's my opinion. They're filled with people who look like his brethren, Big C, or his sister, if that makes any sense. NBA basketball, former NBA all-time great Bill Russell. I think he has 11 champions. He's the only player in the history of the NBA universe that has to put a championship ring on one of his toes because he has 11 of them. Last I checked, there's only room for 10. But former NBA All-Star great Bill Russell stated America must grapple with its past to move beyond racism. That black kids today, they don't grow up worried about the Ku Klux Klan killing them, Big C, in the middle of the night like they used to back in the day that made my family leave the South. They worry about police. They worry about what we've seen so many times, whether it's I can't breathe or the chokehold or just so many things, being shot in the back, running away. It's amazing. They don't shoot white kids walking down the street with guns. You're running away without a gun, they shoot you in the back. And so the great Bill Russell talks about the effects of the terror perpetrated by over hundreds of years. It doesn't disappear simply because America wants them to disappear. They disappear with a national reckoning. With an examination of our cultural norms and our power structures, Big C, we got to dismantle this stuff. We got to start rebuilding our institutions. And by ending voter suppression, that makes everyone question the vote system. Everyone should be allowed to vote. We got to make change from the bottom up to the top, and that starts with the ballot. I love what Bill Russell's always stood for, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's what I've been stumping about is that, it comes down to the Congress. When we got those people who oppress other American citizens, people put their focus on Donald Trump, saying Donald Trump is allowing all of what's going on in America. You haven't seen one white senator walk into Donald Trump's office and say, what's this BS you keep talking about and doing? Why you keep lying to the American public? Not one white senator has challenged Donald Trump. And yet, when you think about, you got 98 of them, Charlton,
yeah.
They could change the plight of America at any point. They can eliminate voter obstruction. They can eliminate police immunity.
Yeah.
All the things that people are fighting and struggling for in the streets of America now, those 98 white senators hold total control of that, Charlton, in America. Not Donald Trump,
yeah.
Those white senators. You can vote him out of office, and yet those senators will still be in office. When you think about Bill Russell, here's a man that he was born in the South, down in Monroe, Louisiana.
Yeah.
His family ended up migrating to California. After his dad was shot by white men on his way home from work, Charlton, when his car ran out of gas.
Yeah.
He's walking down the street, and white men come up and shoot his dad. So you think about the plight of black America. So when he talks about demolishing the institutions that exist, it's the white power that has oppressed people for all these years in America.
Yeah.
Bill Russell had to live through it as a child. He had to live through it as an adult in Boston. So he's known how blacks have been ostracized in this country.
Yeah, and the only time he probably wasn't harassed is when he had on that green and white Celtics uniform, Big C. But a lot of
He
men.
was called names when he was in Boston. I mean, the vitriol that Bill Russell had to deal with when he was playing, even in Boston, and bringing them championships, they still use those racial epithets towards him as a player with the Celtics.
Yeah, and for people that deny that, even the Boston Red Sox, they've acknowledged that a lot of the racism that happens in Boston. Boston's a very segregated city, even though it has a lot of mixtures of colors and cultures. But people, they have something about people. I don't know, maybe it's in the water. But I want to bring it up to the Celtics to this day, Big C. The Boston Celtics, you think about how hard it was to get by the Toronto Raptors in 7 games to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And now the Miami Heat needed only 5 games to take down the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis, who should be in San Francisco sometime before a tip-off next season. Can the Celtics handle Miami's zone? We're not going to give out scores. We know the game, already by the time we got on, it's already, pretty much concluded. But without giving away any results, Big C, give me your thoughts on how Boston can attack the Miami zone, and can the Heat stay hot from deep, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the thing about that zone, Charleston, they have to penetrate and kick out to the open shooter. That's what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
When we think about how well Miami has played, and Miami is rested coming off their victory against the Bucks. This is a team that, they rely a lot on the perimeter shooting. They're not a big team inside. They like to spread the Charleston. So that's coming down to them. Can they keep the ball moving and keep their shooters hot on the outside?
Yeah, I love the fact that both teams can get up and down the court. And my thinking is the team that wins the NBA championship will be the team that realizes you shoot a higher percentage from inside the paint than you do from 3. But 3 is sexy. 3 is like that sexy sports car that always breaks down on you. And then you got the big SUV. And it may not be as sexy, but it doesn't break down as much. You got to get down into the paint. And that's my opinion with what's happening with these teams. Ask the Houston Rockets how sexy it is to shoot 3s and not have a guy go down inside the paint. I want to bring up a game that tonight, I love basketball. To me, is gripping. I know you guys down south are more football centric. I think in the California, basketball, football may be the same passion, Big C. But think about this. Less than a week ago, the LA Clippers, they had a 3-1 lead over the Denver Nuggets in the second round series. And think about this. They were favorites coming in. And I do believe they're going to win tonight if they go into the paint and realize they don't need to keep shooting a lot of 3s. But what a difference can it make with this Nuggets team? They were down 3-1 to Utah, and then down 3-1 to the Clippers, and they forced the game 7. And I think their luck's going to run out tonight. But this will be one of the biggest upsets in the history of the NBA playoffs if the Nuggets could pull it off. But I don't think the officials will allow them to pull it off. And I think that if we keep Montrezl Harrell out of the center, trying to guard bigger guys that he can't hold on to, then I think the Clippers get a win. But if they keep playing Montrezl Harrell, they may exit early. I think Doc's a lot smarter than I am, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not just been Montrezl Harrell. It's been Lou Williams also. They both disappeared. You got 2 6 men of the year playing on your roster. Neither one of them can get you 10 points in a game in Charleston. So that's been the Achilles heel. I know everybody's looking at Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Yeah.
But you got to get even scoring across the board. When you think about Jokic, what he's doing, Charleston getting over 30 points a game, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists, you don't have an answer for him right now.
Yeah.
And if you can get some help from Murray in the backcourt, if that tandem can do what they did when he was knocking down 40 and 50 points a game against Utah, Charleston, that's what they're going to need. So if Murray can get hot, I mean, he's only been averaging like 14 points a game in this series. If he can get up in that 30 category, the Clippers are going home.
Yeah, I don't know if the Clippers want to come home yet, and I think sometimes there's some friends down in Las Vegas that don't want them to go home yet either, because they'll be, we'll see LeBron James going up against Kawhi. I might be wrong, I don't know, but it's a game I can't wait to see. I want to tell you that with Big C Sports, we really want to be the new sexy. We want to be clever. We want to be engaging. We want to be bold. We want to be thrilling. But for most of all, we want to be accurate. When we say things, Google it and see if we know what we're talking about. And do the same thing for other sports talk shows. If you're doing something and it feels good and you want some more, just Google it. Big C Sports Podcast. I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I want to touch on last night. because I'm telling you, there's something about a football player named Derrick Henry. The Tennessee Titans, they kicked the Denver Broncos in the butt, Big City, or the backside, as some people like to call it, in Mile High City. Good old boy, 2019 NFL rushing leader, Derrick Henry. He runs for over 100 yards again. And they missed. The kicker tried to give it away. He missed like 3 field goals and an extra point. I think he'll still have a job because he kicked the winning field goal. But Denver, they couldn't sneak it across the goal line from the 1-yard line, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think this game came down to Nick Fangio, the head coach of the Denver Broncos. I mean, his ineptability to understand what clock management means. You got a kicker that in the pregame, Charlton, kicked a 73-yard field goal.
Yeah.
73-yard field goal.
Yeah.
When you talk about NFL teams and nobody having a home field advantage,
yeah,
Denver has a home field advantage because they're still up there at Mile High Stadium.
Yeah.
And that altitude still affects players. I mean, he could have kicked it from 65 in a regular game if he'd have gave the opportunity.
Yeah.
But when you get the ball back and there's only 17 seconds left on the clock, if you'd have used your timeout, you'd have had at least a minute 10 to go in the game.
Yep.
So Nick Fangio blew this game. Derrick Henry had a subpar game. They held him under 4 yards of rush. That's a success for any defense. When you hold a running back under 4 yards of carry, now you're really having a good game. But, when you think about the kicker, he pulled it out in the end. He missed a couple of field goals and extra points.
Yeah.
So, by Vrabel knowing him and him being a former New England Patriot, he'll stay around another week.
Yeah, he'll stay around, Big C. Maybe he was just. I tell you, I want to stand on the side with the coach. He's up there in age. I'm not making any fun of ageism, but you know what they legalized in Denver? He thought they were out of timeouts, Big C. It's not his fault. Rocky Mountain, ha! So he was a little bit. It's not his fault. There's a lot of stuff floating in the air in Denver. But what a game! It went right down to the wire, and it shows you on the goal line you can't get in. Tennessee's still looking good compared to what they did last year. A game that I want to say I was wrong on because I didn't think that Big Ben could come back from elbow surgery, not have a preseason, and play the way he played last night. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben Roethlisberger, and the Steel Curtain defense part 2, Big C, they showed up and they dominated the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley had about 6 yards rushing on 15 carries. And it was legit 6 yards rushing because this wasn't running the wrong plays. This wasn't a guy being unhealthy. This defense was flying off the ball like they did back in the 70s, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen a running back get hit that many times in the backfield since Barry Sanders was playing with the Detroit Lions. But Saquon Barkley got hit 8 times in the backfield last night.
Yeah.
This is just how porous that offensive line of the Giants is. I mean, it was horrific to see, to watch guys getting paid millions of dollars and could not block their own shadow last night.
Yeah.
It was a farce. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger did well. He didn't do great. He did well.
Yeah.
When you look at him throwing the ball, it didn't seem to have a lot of velocity on it. He was spot throwing the ball, knowing where his receivers would be, and so that bailed him out. But, I think it's going to take some time for him to get into the full mix. But the way that they played, they're the second-best team in their division right now.
Yeah, the defense is legit. Big Ben was 21 of 32, 229 yards. He also ran the ball for 11 yards on the first down, and I thought that was good for a guy that came off of an elbow injury. Because when you think about it, you need your elbow to bend the ball and build your arm and throw the ball. I was really impressed with the way the defense played, but I'm not that impressed with the Giants, so I don't want to give them too much. I don't want to crown them. I don't want to crown them yet, Big C. We'll crown them after they beat the Baltimore Ravens, if that happens. I want to come up on Big C's thoughts for your power rankings for, coming up on the NFL top 10 power rankings, Big C style. Everybody has their own opinion, but I'm going to start off number 10, and you give me your opinion. You don't have to agree with it or not. Number 10, I would really put at the Washington Football Club. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, they shocked a lot of people in week 1, and I think they proved all these naysayers right when they said Carson Wentz wasn't one of the top 100 players in the NFL. That Washington defense proved that he wasn't. Yeah,
they really got to him, Big C. I want to put you at number 9, and you don't have to agree. Number 9, I would say the Buffalo Bills. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, this is a team that's been vastly improved over the last 2 seasons. Josh Allen has taken incremental strides. They've put a lot of great weapons around him offensively. The defense is completely solid, just like the one you have there in Washington.
Yep.
And that's going to carry them through the season.
It's going to carry them through the season. I want to put in a team that might be too low right now. But the New England Patriots with a great Cam Newton, I've never seen New England with a run-pass option quarterback. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if they're too low right now, Charleston. When you look at what they have to face this coming weekend, Charleston, they're going to have to go out to Seattle and find out what Mr. Houdini on the West Coast is doing, Russell Wilson, with the Seahawks. But, that was an excellent win that they had, but they were only playing Miami, so you can't crown them as champions yet.
Yeah, don't crown them yet. Number 7, I'm going to go with the Steel Curtain Part 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, this is a team last year, when you think about that they went 6-2 in games in the latter part of the season without having a quarterback, Charleston, and without scoring over 17 points.
Yeah.
So this is a team that now you have a quarterback where you could get 3 touchdowns in a game. It's going to be back to the old Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this reminds you of a young Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Yeah.
They come out and hit you hard and hit you often.
Yeah, but unlike Mike Tyson, they don't bite you unless you put your finger in the face mask. Jim Brown, Richard Pryor told this story, is someone tried to face mask Jim Brown, and Jim Brown bit his finger off. And they said, Jim, why'd you bite him? He said, anything on the outside of this face mask belonged to him. Everything on the inside belongs to me. So that's the great Jim Brown and Mike Tyson. Big C, I'm going to bring in number 6. The Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray was doing his thing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that has a lot of offensive electricity. I think DeAndre Hopkins just caught another pass on the 49ers. So, I mean, when you look at what they can do, and Cliff Kingsbury is very confident in Kyler Murray at quarterback.
Yeah.
He lets this young man run the offense. He doesn't put any restraints on him. And he's seen that. And this is what makes them successful. They need to improve some defensively. But, I mean, when you think about you got 2 potential Hall of Fame wide receivers, Charleston, this team is going to be dynamic all season.
Yeah, Big C, you made me throw up my water. I was drinking a sip of water, and I threw it up when you said Hopkins just caught another touchdown pass. So it's all fair level war. It's not Richard Sherman's fault. I'm going to say number 5, the Who Dat New Orleans Saints. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're a team that they're the best team in their division. I mean, they got off to a slow start against the Buccaneers, and you think about the Buccaneers having outstanding defense. But, the Saints are going to catch their stride. They've upgraded their receiving core.
Yep.
They're going to be better as the season goes along, and they're always one of the perennial powers offensively in the NFL.
Yeah, they're really solid. Even down there, no crowd at the Dome, they were big, though. All right, Big C, I have his coughing again, Big C. I had to kill the mic for about 10 seconds because I was still thinking that DeAndre Hopkins caught another touchdown. I'm going to go to another team. We're going to see them again this week against the Patriots, and that would be the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson may be the MVP this year, at least in the NFC. Your thoughts?
Well, he's never gotten an MVP vote in his entire career.
Crazy.
But what Pete Carroll did on Sunday with the Falcons, Charleston, is that he turned over the page on the playbook.
Yeah.
He took the fourth quarter and put it in the first quarter. And he saw the results that Russell Wilson was able to have on the team and throwing 4 touchdown passes.
Amazing.
Having a wide-open offense that you could not predict any longer with the Seattle Seahawks. He's listened to all the proponents out there that said, Pete Carroll, you got to let Russell Wilson play.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, he let him play. Really love the way DK Metcalf plays also. I'm going to bring you to the quarterback that had arguably the best game. Didn't have the highest percentage completion, but he completed 80% of his passes. And you look at the Baltimore Ravens and how good they were with Jackson, Big C. I'm going to put them at number 3, Big C. Your thoughts?
Everybody's enamored with the offense in Baltimore, but think about that defense. They gave up 6 points to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
The defense was upgraded during the offseason. They made some key acquisitions and added to the strengths that they already had.
Yep.
So when you think about this organization, and it's always been known for its defense, you had a defense that got better, and they were the best team in the regular season last year in the NFL. And Lamar Jackson has improved his downfield passing, which is something that he wanted to work on in the offseason to get him to the point of where he needs to be. The Baltimore Ravens will run away with their division. The only challenge they have is the Steelers, but I think that they can still handle them.
Well, I can't wait to see that game, Big C. I want to take you to number 2, which might surprise a lot of people. But at least, it's just for the week 2 coming up. I'm going to look at Aaron Rodgers, discount double check, and the Green Bay Packers, and he's playing like he's mad, and that's how you should play. You should play like you're mad. And at least it worked against Minnesota week 1. But I think Green Bay is a lot better than people give them credit for. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you have to play with an attitude, and everybody want to highlight on Aaron Rodgers. You got to highlight on the receivers that the Green Bay Packers have. You know, they didn't go out in the draft and draft anybody, but yet no rookie receiver had a better day than any Green Bay Packer receiver had on Sunday. So they were right, management was, in sticking with the group of guys that they had.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers played like Aaron Rodgers normally plays early in the season. The Green Bay Packers defense has to improve a little more because they gave up 34 points to the Vikings. But this is a team that's in the same position they were last year, primed to win the division.
Yeah, they are primed to win the division, and especially with teams like Detroit and also Chicago. It's going to be up to them in Minnesota. We'll see what happens going on. I think it's easy for people to say that the pick right now is the Kansas City Chiefs when you look at how they seem to score at will. Their defense is legit, and they have arguably the best quarterback in football, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Going to put them at number 1. It might be everybody's number 1. This team, they look very poised to repeat, especially if they can stay healthy, Big C. They're so talented, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team where you got to try to find the weakness. They came out this year stronger than what they did last year.
Yeah.
Everybody's expecting from Mahomes to go out and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. He proves that he didn't have to. He can let this offense mold into shape. They came out and they dominated the game on the ground. They rushed the ball 35 times, which has been unheard of with the Kansas City Chiefs since Patrick has been the quarterback.
Yeah.
But the defense also played solid, and they held Houston in check.
Yep.
So they picked up where they left off in the Super Bowl. And you don't want Patrick Mahomes to become scary. Give him 3 games, and you'll see the guy launching for 400 yards.
Yeah, he really is amazing. There's a lot of good things going on in the world of football. And no matter how much, I want to make sure people get out and vote. Text the word VOTE to 26797. That's VOTE to 26797. Tell them Big C, the NFL, said to get out there and vote. I really appreciate what's going on in this great country of ours where people are not hiding behind lies. I know no matter what political slant somebody has, you can't respect someone who just openly lies to you. They can come back and atone. But when you have LSU, Ed Orgeron, part of the SEC, I mean, they're defending national champions. And he's saying more than half of their players have COVID-19. And there's no talk on SEC saying, well, we need to postpone football because we care about the health of our kids. And he says, we hope they're not out too long so they can play. Not about, hey, let's put this on pause. Maybe that sign did say, iceberg straight ahead, and they took the Titanic forward anyway. What would you say to the SEC, Big C, and even the Big Ten that wants to hold a conference as they make fun of Pac-12 teams for not playing and trusting science? What do you say to them now, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've gotten to the point where I stopped trying to figure out that these people care about the health of these young athletes. Is that it's all about financial gain, and they're not going to share any of it with these athletes, whether they get sick or not. When Ed Orgeron said he didn't know how many players that came positive for COVID-19, but he knows he got 115 players on the team, and he knows how many zeros are on his paycheck.
Yeah.
But the health and welfare of his players, he made a public statement saying that was not a concern of his.
Yeah.
And you have to take a pause when you think about a college football coach saying that the health and welfare of his players and his team is not his major concern.
Yeah.
He's only worried about getting out there on the field and fulfilling a television contract.
Yeah.
And that's not just Ed Orgeron. I think that's every coach that's out there that's participating in college football right now.
Yeah.
Having that same sentiment, especially in the Big 12 and the SEC.
Yeah. It's all fair and love and war. Stanton's activated by the Yankees after missing 32 games. And good news up in Canada, the Raptors signed Coach Nick Nurse to a multi-year extension, and so they're very happy with that. And the Wild Defense Boarding has a 7-year, $42 million extension, and it is amazing. With what LSU came out with today, and they're still talking about let's play ball. Iceberg straight ahead! You guys, make sure you understand what your own doctors say. These schools have already told you they lied to you. Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we're looking at getting down to the Stanley Cup final in the NHL. We know we have one team in already with Dallas. Who is it going to be? The New York Islanders or the Tampa Bay Lightning? And who's going to knock off tonight in the NBA? Is it going to be the Los Angeles Clippers or the Denver Nuggets? Wait on the excitement. And I want to say once again, thank you to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, our first responders. I know that the job that you do is not looked at as a glamour job, but I know you get much exhilaration, and we appreciate the hard work that you do.
We do appreciate it, and I really want to appreciate Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, giving out that Veterans Crisis Hotline from Big C Sports to the White House. We really appreciate helping our veterans. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really appreciate it. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child gone through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.